Hey, Master Dow here. So today I'm going to be talking about the only two ways to teach children. Um, Actually, I'm going to say the two and then I'm going to expound on it a little bit. First and foremost, there's the right way and the wrong way. But no, seriously. Within the right way, there is two ways of teaching children. First and foremost, I highly recommend Melody Johnson, formerly Melody Schumann's skills program. That is a developmentally based martial art program, best bar none. There are probably other similar programs out there, but I can't think of any. The big thing there with that approach, the skills program is basically, and this is kind of from Melody and the heads of skills right now, it is not so much a martial art program, it's a child development program that uses martial arts as the vehicle. Okay? It works in 8 developmental skills for each age group. The 3 to 4 years, 5 to 6, 7, 9, 10 to 14, and what they call elite skills is pre and post black belt. So, the great thing is you can use her curriculum, which is quote-unquote karate-based. I don't know if it's Tang Soo Do, Taekwondo. I think it's Tang Soo Do, I'm not sure. But they have fully set curriculum base, so you don't, it's totally plug and play. She's actually spoiled me so that I've tried other types of curriculum over the years when I didn't want to design my own Muay Thai, other things. And because her curriculum are so well thought out and so plug and play, everything else was kind of a disappointment. Even though there's some really good ones out there. I was so spoiled with the skills program. And the great thing about the skills program is if you don't want to do karate blocks and hut punches, the skills mentors will help you adjust it for whatever your art is. But first and foremost, you must remember that the developmental skills come first. The style comes second. And in my opinion, especially for younger children, the 3 and 4 year olds, 5 and 6, and arguably the 7 to 9 year olds, that's what parents want. So in the skills program, they do, as I said, 8 developmental skills for each age group. So you take the coolest parts of different martial arts and plug them into those 8 developmental skills. They need to be focus, teamwork, memory, balance, things that are important for kids to develop at those ages. Many of them are specific benchmarks for kids. For the 3 and 4 year olds, you have the things that make sense for martial arts, punching, kicking, but then there's also catching, crawling, hopping, rolling, running, and catching, which don't seem martial art related. And once again, the skills program is a child development program that uses martial arts. Okay, so that is one way of teaching, as I said. Before I go into the second way of teaching children, let me remind people that these videos are not monetized mainly because my channel is still really small. It used to be monetized when YouTube first came out, but then they changed the rules and I hadn't used it much. For that, I had it more of for parent videos and stuff like that for our online curriculum. So I really appreciate it if you go to my GoFundMe page and if you like these videos and they're helpful. I'm going to be setting up also, I think, a Patreon or some other things. I really want to help out the community at large. So if you enjoy these, please support me that way. Also, please like and subscribe. That will really help my channel grow. Okay, so the second way to teach children is to teach whatever style you are into. And this is specifically works a lot on your combat sport guys. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, competitive Taekwondo. That they want, their style to them is the most important. But what I think you should do is then teach whatever style you're teaching. And then make sure you have a deep understanding of child development. So I would still buy the skills program. If nothing else, and I would pay, if you can, the whole, I think it's called Gold Level, where you get all the age groups. You want at least 3 and 4. Arguably, you could not do 3 and 4 year olds. Just that it's a market that is underserved in the martial art community, so it's useful there. I used to get quite a few 3 and 4 year olds, And ones that continued all the way through, I had a girl that started at 3.5, went all the way up until she was 16.5. She was with me for 13 years. So the ones that stick, really stick. But there's a big turnover in that age group. But definitely get to 5 and 6, 7 to 9-year-olds. 10 to 14 is also useful because you're going to, most of you martial arts schools try to train that age group like they do adults. And some of it you do, but also some of it is very not like. The biggest mistake on people who want to teach, their style is more important than child development, and that's a lot of martial arts schools, is they water down the curriculum to teach the kids. And not necessarily in the best way. If you don't understand the motor skills, the intellectual capacity, the emotional development, the physical development of each age group, you're going to water down the wrong things. Some people, just by pure luck and working enough with children, have instinctively have created some great programs. Some of those big schools out there that have like 1,000 students in a huge kids program, they know how to teach kids. They may just not have specifically understood child development, or maybe they researched it on their own. But most, if you're a martial arts school, small, medium, or slightly large, or definitely want to have a really kick-butt kids program, you really need to understand child development so you can apply your style. People are going to, some of you might ask, like, how's that different from the first way of just using the skills program and maybe changing it over for my style? Once again, the skills program is primarily a child development program. Okay? So if you want the focus to be on your style, kind of flip it, but you still need a deep understanding of how child development works. One, you could go, and even you could find all the books that went into the creation of that program and understand and study child psychology and child development and things like that. You could do that on your own as well. And most of those martial artists don't have that kind of time. So even if you only did for a year or two, I would recommend at least 2 or 3 programs, if not the whole program of the skills program, on how to, and how, because you're going to get a lot of different things that are going to frustrate you as a teacher if you don't understand child development. A couple examples I used to use. 3 and 4-year-olds. A lot of times when I'm talking to them on a mat chat, and some of you guys, what's a mat chat? A lot of martial arts schools will sit kids down either in the beginning of class or near the beginning, talk about what they're going to be working on today, maybe do a character development thing, or they do it at the end of class. A lot of martial arts schools do that because it's when parents are picking the kids up, and the parents can see, oh, cool, they're learning character development. But during a mat chat, even if you're just talking about what you're going to cover that day, if you're not doing a character development thing, 3 and 4-year-olds and sometimes some of the 5-year-olds will kind of lay down. And I'm like, wow, they're unfocused. Given the age, they do have a certain attention span. But it's not that. Their stomach muscles are not developed enough, and their neck muscles to sit, and even in crisscross applesauce, for long periods of time. They get tired. Other things are like kids mimicking other kids' behavior. Like if one kid falls down, they all copy him and fall down and start like yapping. And it seems really annoying. You're like, hey, stop it. You feel like you're herding cats. But what it is that developmentally, they're showing socially that they accept that kid as a friend. It's a really important thing. Third one, that's a big one, is going off topic. I would talk about, you want to have your hands here, you want T-Rex, not chicken, right? And then kid goes into a long diatribe about how he loves T-Rexes and how many toys he has. And yeah, you do need to cut that short because you only have a certain amount of class time. But you don't want to cut it too short because that kid is telling you about himself and he's like bonding with you. So that's an important thing as well. All these things you would never know from your typical martial art training on how to teach martial arts. So that's why I recommend, whether you want to teach a child development program with using martial arts as the vehicle, or you want to teach your martial arts style to get a heavy developmental understanding of children, to purchase at least the skills program. I guess they're working on something in the century called pre-skills. I don't know how in-depth that is compared to the regular program, but definitely you need to understand child development before you have a curriculum based on it. I know there's some big sports schools out there, and I personally think sport martial arts is the best vehicle for self-defense as well, as long as you're learning using competition to test your skills and not learning how to play around the rules to win. That make young champions and things like that. But how many kids are getting left behind that don't fit into that model? So that's my thing. The two ways to teach. Either teach a child development program that uses martial arts as its base or its vehicle, or teach martial arts with a deep understanding of child development. Okay, for those of you who've stuck with me to this part in the video, I'm actually going to give, if I were to open a martial arts school again, how I would do the program. Which of the two worlds would I do? Well, truth be told, I do a mix of both. I would probably not do early skills again. I find it really teacher intensive. I had some great students and I had some fun teaching the 3- and 4-year-olds, but it's really teacher intensive. What I would do is do the basic skills, which is the 5- and 6-year-olds, with modifications like instead of the karate version, I would do more of a kickboxing base. It'd actually be simpler because you wouldn't have all the different strikes and blocks. You just have like boxing parries. I wouldn't do any head movement drills at that age group. I wouldn't do slips or bobs and weaves. That's maybe bob and weave, but kind of more in games. And then I know a lot of martial arts schools do their age groups 7 to 14, which technically from a skills point of view would be a big no-no. But I think if you have a deep understanding of child development, you can get away with it. So I would probably do a 7 to 14-year-old group, or maybe maybe have 2 teachers in there and break it up kind of almost to how the core skills and extreme skills would be broken up. But I would teach that more of how you teach a martial art. I wouldn't say teach it like you do adults, but in a similar manner of how you teach adults, but with the understanding child development. Not watering it down, but like teaching to their age group in that class. As an example, if I was teaching Muay Thai, that'd be youth Muay Thai. If I was teaching Jiu-Jitsu, it'd be youth Jiu-Jitsu. Like a lot of martial arts schools call their class that. That is how I would do it, and maybe have an advanced or competition team for the really hardcore kids. Just a final note for grappling schools like BJJ, Sambo, etc. Vast majority are probably going to be BJJ. The skills does have a ground skills program, so if you didn't want to do, even though there's some BJJ schools that teach skills, a lot of them actually teach the karate version or maybe a kickboxing style version of skills rather than the ground skills. Just because I think it's an easier sell to parents, especially younger age groups. But you could use the ground skills program. Just keep in mind, once again, it's a child development program. You're not going to create any champions using that program. But yeah, definitely for the younger age groups, you would give them a great foundation for when you wanted to build into more of a style-based program. So those are my thoughts. I would do, if I were to open a school again, do 5 and 6-year-olds with basic skills, pretty much as is, with some slight modifications. And then do the 7 to 14-year-olds with a deep understanding of child development and target specifically those different age groups in that class, even though they're together. I might eventually break those out into 2, depending on if I got enough size. But that's how I would do it. Any comments below would be great, what you thought of the video. If you had any other questions, I also put a link to the Skills Connect in there for those who are interested. See you in the next video.